Hi everyone and welcome back to LARP 101. So, I love Rangers. They are probably my favourite characters to play. I have read The Ranger's Apprentice, I absolutely loved Aragorn in Lord of the Rings, and I've played more Rangers on World of Warcraft than I can possibly remember. It's kind of my thing. So, in our very first Let's Build a Costume, I thought it was only appropriate to start with my very favourite, let's start building a Ranger costume. Okay, step one, base layers. So if you're going to a LARP event that spans over a few days, this is the stuff that you're going to need to buy multiples of. Your base layers is what's going to be soaking up all the sweat when you're playing and you're running around all day fighting bad guys. And let's face it, putting on sweaty clothes that you've worn the day before is a bit icky. I don't care if it's more immersive, this is the 21st century, hygiene is important. So no matter your costume, make sure you have enough tops and bottoms for every day of a LARP event. So there are many options as to what you can do to put together a Ranger costume. So let's start with practicality. Because let's face it, Rangers are practical characters. They spend many days trekking over harsh terrain. They're not going to be thinking about fancy clothes or wearing lots of sparkly things that can get lost in the mud. And Rangers can't afford to have clothes that either tear easily or are hard to move in. So we're looking at shirts, trousers and boots. I have this men's fencing shirt that I got from Epic Armory. I confess, I got it just because of the billowing sleeves. White clothing might be controversial because it isn't weathered. I don't care in this case, I like clean clothes, don't at me. Other style tops work fine, just make sure you've got something, new to wear each day, but you're kind of looking for this general silhouette, just straight and sleeves, that's all you want. Trousers are brown cotton, they're thin but they're easy to layer under, which means if it's cold weather you make sure you've got plenty of things, to keep you all bundled up and warm. They don't have to be brown, any trousers that are in some form of earth tone or dark colours should be fine. Don't wear black though. I don't advise people wear black if they're planning on hiding in the woods, or if they're planning on hiding anywhere, to be honest. When you're looking out into the world, darkness isn't black. It's made out of lots of different shades of blue and grey, and while it's all very dark, a solid black object against all of that actually stands out pretty well. So the colours you're probably looking for are either a matte dark grey or a matte dark blue, because that shade mixes in with the darkness better. Pick those if you're planning on being stealthy. And last but not least, boots. Now, I know some of you prefer period accurate footwear, but I prefer ankle support. I like having thick soles, and I also like having waterproof shoes. It helps me have a good LARP event. I don't like wet feet. So, to make them look a little less modern, I asked the wonderful people at Darkblade if they could make me some boot covers. I've said this before, you've seen them. I got these amazing boot covers, they're absolutely fantastic, and I can slip them over my walking boots, so that's awesome. And they even made them in the perfect size to fit over my overly chunky legs. You shouldn't need more than one pair of shoes at a LARP event unless they're not waterproof. Having dry feet is pretty much essential for any good LARP event, so this is something you might want to invest a little bit more money in to make sure that you've got a pair that's good quality and will keep your feet nice and dry. These bits and bobs work quite well for the base layer for most fancy costumes, and they work for guys, gals and non-binary alike, so all good. Step 2, Armour and Outerlayers. Armour varies on Rangers. Some like to dress light, and some like to wear things a bit heavier. Take for instance Aragorn, played by Viggo Mortensen in Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings. Like you didn't know that. His look involved a lot of layers of chainmail and leather. It was always rather clear that the chainmail was there to protect him from orc attacks. The purpose of the leather was a little bit harder because he layered it over the top of the chainmail. Didn't really protect the leather, but it did look cooler. Maybe it protected from weathering. It was probably just the cooler thing. I'm personally not a big chainmail person. I've tried it, it looked pretty cool, but that weight kills me. I just can't be bothered with it, so no chainmail for me. So I'm going to be using my gambeson that I got from Armour Arena. I really love it, it's super comfy. It's sleeveless, so I can show you the wonderful billowing sleeves from my wonderful shirt. Okay, so I'm just going to bring this up right now. Rangers usually wear green or brown. I don't. I wear blue because I like blue. And I'm going to sit here and say that I wear blue because it's really practical, because it blends into shadows more and that's much more efficient, rather than just the simple reason that I like blue, I look better in it and I don't want to wear green or brown. And to add to that, I'm adding a blue cloak to this costume. Cloaks are pretty much a must for any fantasy costume that you'll find. You've got to be careful with the fabric. A lot of people like that you see cloaks have thin sort of cotton or something like that. You don't want that if you're going to be playing somebody who's meant to be out in the woods, because it will get wet and you'll get drenched and you'll just get freezing cold. It's not worth it. So I have this blue one, which is canvas, and I think I also got this from Epic Armory. But canvas is really great because what happens is that when it absorbs water, the fibres expand and then more water can't get in. So it essentially becomes waterproof on its own, which is really, really cool. Does weigh a ton though. But it's far more practical cloak for a ranger than pretty much anything else you'll find. Step 3, your belt. Okay, so every LARPer needs belts and pouches. It's pretty much rule 1 at LARP. So when picking your belt out, here are 3 things you need to remember. 1, sturdiness. You don't want it falling off you under the weight of all of your pouches. 2, comfort. You don't want it digging into your waist as you go on fighting. You'll put up with it for a bit, but by the end of it, you'll hate it and you'll throw it across the floor. And 3, pouches. You want to be able to hold a lot of stuff. Now, I know what you're thinking. Surely the number of pouches that fits on a belt depends on the waist size of the person wearing it. Well, you'd think that, but not necessarily. It kind of depends on the belt and how many belts you're willing to wear. So in my head, rangers need to carry quite a bit. So I have this belt with 2 little belts that goes around it, so I can fit on twice as many pouches as a singular belt. Don't ask me why. Well, that's the theory anyway. Because the belt straps are so close together, whatever's being, laced onto the top belt will hang over the bottom one. So I guess with this I'm going to have to think strategically about where all the pouches are going to go so I can fit the most things on there as possible. Step 4, pouches and accessories. So what do rangers need on the belt, other than weapons? We'll get to that in a minute. Well, everyone needs to pay for stuff, so a bag for coins is probably a given. Nothing is more likely to get you killed in LARP than you dropping all of your coins all over the floor and you running around to get them and the monster's just killing you. So make sure you've got a coin purse that you know is secure. Remember to have a water skin or a bottle holder because drinking is important, and there is an emphasis on that when I say water. Alcohol is not good for you at LARP, nor is fizzy drinks. They're fine to have, but they're not going to keep you hydrated. So make sure you are drinking water at LARP. Next, a scroll holder. Rangers have messages, they have maps, they've got loads of paperwork that they need to carry, and frankly having it all in one secure scroll holder is a must. Plus they do look really cool and I kind of love them. And also you need 2 pouches for miscellaneous stuff. One, ideally to have snacks in because you need to eat as you're going. If you are playing a ranger in the woods, you're going to run out of energy really quick running around trying to find things, trying to run away from stuff, so having something to eat is always good. And one that you can just put random stuff that you find in it. And I don't mean random stuff like, rocks or twigs, because, ooh, pretty. I'm talking about the magic gem that you find in some form of, monster lair, and you have to run back to your camp with it to perform some magic spell, blah, blah, blah. If you drop it in the woods, it will suck. Have a pouch to put it in so that you can at least not drop it. I'm not talking from experience, I promise. These are the only ones I can really think of that you would definitely need to have on you. I personally think that you should have as many pouches as possible on you because you never know what you're going to have to carry. Notebooks, pens, all that sort of thing. Not really necessarily for maybe this character build that I'm doing, but definitely keep that in mind. Step 5, weapons. Now you can have many different types of weapons if you're playing a ranger. There are so many different options, and in my personal opinion you can't go wrong with most things. The real classics are bow and arrow or dual daggers. You can go with a sword and shield as well. This is because they all work with the principle of storing at least one of your weapons on your back. Storing a weapon on your back makes everything a lot less clunky and means that if you're fleeing through the woods trying not to die, less likely to get snagged on things. For my ranger costume, I'm going with the classics, so I have dual daggers on the back of my costume. I've got a quiver complete with LARP arrows, and my personal favourite, my recurve bow. I do love long bows. I want one so badly. I think they look brilliant, they look really dramatic, and obviously they're really cool. However, they're not practical for a ranger in my personal opinion, because they are so huge, and that means if you're, moving through the undergrowth, they're going to snag on bushes and trees, and that means you're either going to damage your bow, or if you don't, at the very least, you're stuck on something. It's just not practical for woodland environments. I prefer recurve bows, they are a lot shorter than long bows. When it comes to LARP arrows, make sure you check with your game system as to what type of LARP arrows you can use. There are so many different types, so many cannot be used at certain systems because they aren't deemed safe enough. It is one of the biggest things in LARP you need to consider when using a bow and arrow is what type you're actually going to have. So do make sure you check your game's rules before you buy any. One of the worst feelings humanly possible is to buy a ton of arrows, arrive at a LARP event, and then being told you can't use them. So remember, check, 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 check the game rules. Building costumes is one of my favourite parts of LARP, so if you want to see more of this type of video, let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe if you haven't already. Please stay safe, please stay healthy, and I'll see you on the battlefield soon.